By the time the elevator doors slid open on that final Friday afternoon, every person in the lobby already knew I was a dead man walking, everyone except me. I stepped out wearing the suit they once praised, the suit my wife's mother insisted made me look like the family's future. But futures don't vanish, they get stolen. And mine was ripped from me by the three people I trusted most in this company: Victor Hale, the grinning operations chief with a shark's patience; Lena Corbett, my wife's calculating cousin who never forgave me for outperforming her; and Marcel Rowan, the supposedly loyal CFO who called me brother while sharpening knives behind my back. They didn't just fire me. They gutted me in front of the entire staff, my wife included, stripping my title, my dignity, and the life I built with blood and sleepless years. By sundown, my marriage was ash, my career radioactive, and the company I helped build had erased me like a typo. But humiliation is a currency. And by Monday morning, I would own every brick, every office, every trembling heartbeat inside that building. I'm not here to tell you how I survived. I'm here to tell you how I took everything back and made them beg for the mercy I never planned to give. The first time Gregory Hale called me son, I almost believed him. We were standing in the corner office on the 23rd floor, the one with the glass wall that made the city look like it belonged to us. The sun was sliding down behind the serrated skyline, gilding the rows of buildings and throwing long veins of light over the polished floor. Gregory leaned on the edge of his desk, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, that genial, heavy-lidded look he used when he wanted you to let your guard down. "Ethan," he said, lifting a crystal tumbler toward me, "whatever the board says, this company runs because of you. Don't forget that. You're family. You're my son as much as Amelia is my daughter." I held my own glass like it was a trophy. "You know I'm not going anywhere, Gregory." He laughed, low and warm. "That's exactly what I like to hear." I've been in that office 100 times. I knew where his pen always rolled to on the desk, the hairline crack on the bottom left of the window, the tiny nick on the corner of the credenza where an intern once misjudged a delivery cart. I knew the smell of Gregory's cologne, the way he tapped his lower teeth with his thumbnail when thinking, the way he kept his shoulders slightly back so his stomach seemed smaller. I knew everything. Or I thought I did. Behind me, the city buzzed. Above me, the air vents whispered. Around me, the Hale family empire, Hale Corbett Manufacturing Group glowed in brushed steel and white light. We built precision components other companies needed to function: automotive parts, industrial sensors, specialty hardware. Boring to most people. Beautiful to me. Every contract meant another slice of the market, another layer of armor around my future. I took a sip of my drink and tried not to look too pleased with myself. Tonight's board meeting had gone flawlessly. The numbers were obscene, for everyone else. For us, they were just confirmation. "We beat guidance by 11%, I said. "Our margins are up across every division. The new logistics system in Owensville plant cut lead times by 24%. We're a machine, Gregory." "We," he repeated, like a toast. "Exactly." He clinked his glass lightly against mine. "You made the machine purr, Ethan. The board sees it. The staff sees it. Your name carries weight in this building. That's not given, it's earned." I let myself smile. I'd earned it the hard way: 18-hour days, missed vacations, holidays sacrificed on the altar of quarterly targets. Amelia used to joke that she'd married the company with me as a bonus. In the early years, it sounded romantic. Lately, it sounded like a warning. Still, this was what I'd wanted: respect, power, stability, a future built on more than hope. As if summoned by my thoughts, the office door opened and Amelia Hale Cole stepped in without knocking, the way only family did. She had her hair pulled back in a sleek twist, a navy dress hugging her frame, and the tired but humming energy of someone who'd spent the whole day being important. She gave her father a quick kiss on the cheek, then crossed to me and squeezed my arm. "You killed it in there," she said. "Again. They're already calling you the miracle worker." I laughed. "Let's not tempt fate." "Fate's been tempted," she said. "It's terrified of you." Gregory chuckled. "Your wife has a flair for hyperbole, Ethan. Don't let it go to your head." "Too late," I said. They both smiled. I basked in it, in them, in the warmth of being the golden son-in-law who turned a solid family business into a sharp-edged force. The kid from a 2-bedroom apartment who now signed documents in pen that cost more than his first car. If you'd told 20-year-old me this would be my life, I would have assumed you were mocking me. The phone on Gregory's desk buzzed softly. He glanced at the display, then at me. "Operations update before we celebrate. Victor wants to run through some final numbers on Monday's restructuring proposals." He twisted his lips. You know how he is. Victor Hale. The operations chief. Amelia's older cousin. The unofficial prince before I arrived. The man with a shark smile and a spreadsheet for a soul. Send him in, I said. We'll keep it short. Gregory pressed the intercom. Tell Victor to come up. The moment the line clicked off, Amelia's fingers tightened on my arm just slightly, almost imperceptibly. You two going to be good? She asked. I gave her a puzzled look. Since when are we not good? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she moved to the window, staring out at the city, her reflection faint on the glass. He's been under pressure, she said carefully. The plant conversions, the layoffs. Operations takes the hit on the ground. People blame him. And they praise me, I said. She glanced over her shoulder, guilty. I didn't say that. You didn't need to. I swallowed the rest of my drink and set the empty glass down. I'm not trying to steal his thunder. I'm just good at my job. That's exactly the problem, Gregory muttered. Something cold flickered in my chest, then went out. I dismissed it. Office politics. Ego. It always passed. The door swung open without a knock this time. Victor stepped in, tall, lean, black hair slicked back, dark blue suit cut razor sharp. He had that casual prowl to his walk, all lazy confidence and hidden teeth. He smiled at Amelia first, then at Gregory, and finally at me, like I was last on his list but he didn't want me to notice. Celebrating without me? He asked. I'm hurt. Arrived just in time, Gregory said. We're about to talk numbers. Victor's smile thinned. Then I suppose this is your party, Ethan. Plenty of credit to go around, I said, standing straighter. You kept the plant steady. I just gave them better tools to work with. And somehow your name is the one on the presentation deck, he said mildly. Amelia shot me a quick look, there it is. I ignored it. I wrote it, I said. But your team's numbers are all over it. You know that. Victor's eyes stayed on me for a beat too long. Of course. Just a joke. It wasn't, but this wasn't the time or place. He turned toward Gregory. About Monday. We need to discuss the Owensville restructuring schedule and the headcount adjustments. If Ethan's going to be paraded as the architect, I'd like to make sure the actual gears aren't ignored. I'm not ignoring, I began. Relax, he cut in smoothly. You're the miracle worker. I'm just the guy who keeps the miracle from falling apart. Amelia stepped between us, voice light. You can both be magic. Teamwork, remember? Victor laughed. You're right, Millie. I'm just cranky. Long day. He placed a sleek black folder on Gregory's desk and tapped it once. We'll go through this Monday morning, Ethan. Before the staff briefing. Perfect, I said. 9 a.m.? 8, he corrected. You're a leader. Leaders wake up earlier. I matched his smile. I've been up earlier than you for years, Victor. His gaze flicked to Amelia, then back to me. Something unsaid hung there, right at the edge of my awareness. It slid off before I could grab it. See you then, he said. As he left, the air seemed to relax. Gregory sighed. He'll adjust. Change has rearranged a few expectations. Amelia slipped her hand into mine. You're both too proud, she murmured. One of you has to blink eventually. I'm not blinking, I said quietly. I know, she said. That's what scares me. The celebration dinner that night was the kind of thing I'd once seen only in magazines, a private room at Carmen's on the river, white tablecloths, soft lighting, waiters who appeared the moment you even thought of needing something. The Hale and Corbett families occupied the long table like royalty, flanked by a few hand-picked executives whose future depended on how loudly they laughed at Gregory's jokes. I sat near the center, between Amelia and Marcel Rowan, the CFO. Marcel was a solid, barrel-chested man in his early 40s with a buzz cut and a permanently amused expression. He'd grown up in the same rough part of town I had. That was why I trusted him. Or thought I did. To Ethan, Marcel said, lifting his wine glass high. The man who turned our mess into money. The table erupted into polite laughter and scattered cheers. I grinned, a little embarrassed. Pretty sure we were already rich before I showed up. Rich, yes, said Margaret Hale, Gregory's wife, from across the table. She had silver hair, perfect posture, and eyes that had seen every family fight in this room and outlived them all. Efficient? No. Fast-growing? No. Organized? Absolutely not. You did that, Ethan. Don't pretend you didn't. Mom's right, said Lena Corbett, sitting diagonally across from me. She smiled, but her tone had an edge like chipped glass. Before you, we were just stumbling in a straight line. Now we're sprinting, with you at the front, of course. Careful, Lena, said her mother, Diane Corbett, patting her hand. Jealousy isn't flattering. I'm not jealous, Lena said, her gaze never leaving mine. I'm impressed. I'd learned early on that Lena's idea of a compliment usually had barbed wire wrapped around it. Think of it this way, I said lightly. The faster we sprint, the bigger the bonus pool. She tilted her head. Is that how it works, Marcel? Marcel chewed thoughtfully on a piece of bread. The bonus pool is generous this year, he said diplomatically. Let's just say the shareholders are smiling and so am I. And the board? Gregory asked, swirling his wine. Marcel nodded. Ecstatic. I've never seen them that eager to approve a performance package. Performance package? I repeated. Amelia nudged my leg under the table. Here it comes, she whispered. Gregory smiled at me, slow and satisfied, like a king bestowing a title. The board approved a new incentive structure for senior leadership, he said. They were persuaded that certain individuals are critical to the company's continued success. Individuals like you, Ethan. A warmth rose in my chest. What kind of structure? Marcel dabbed his mouth with a napkin, enjoying the moment. Equity, he said. A significant block. Vesting schedule, performance triggers, the usual scaffolding. But the headline is, you're going to own a serious piece of this place. The room blurred slightly at the edges. How serious? I asked. Gregory leaned forward. If you keep this up, within a few years you'll be the second largest individual shareholder outside of family voting trusts. He smiled. And I don't consider you outside the family, son. The table murmured in approval. Wine glasses clinked. Someone at the far end, Lucas Grant, the head of marketing, let out a low whistle. That's huge, Lucas said. Congratulations, man. You're officially one of the suits we complain about in the break room. His wife, Nora Grant, slapped his arm. He's always been one of the suits. I felt Amelia's hand slide over mine under the table, squeezing tight. See? She whispered. I told you they see you. I squeezed back. Feels surreal. Don't faint, she said, smiling. It'll ruin your intimidating executive image. Across the table, Lena watched our joined hands with a slight curl to her lip. Equity is a big step, she said. Must be nice to jump the line. Lena, Diane warned again. It's a fair question, Lena insisted, never looking away from me. I mean, we're all family here. Some of us were born into it. Some of us married into it. And some of us work very, very hard and hope our last name will carry us further someday. Her eyes glinted. Isn't that right, Victor? Victor, seated near the far end with a few operations managers, barely glanced up from his glass. I'm not the one getting the equity package, he said calmly. Ask Ethan. All eyes shifted back to me. I smiled, keeping my voice level. This isn't jumping the line. It's tying me to the company. You want the guy driving the ship to have skin in the game, right? The guy driving the ship, Lena repeated softly. Enough, Margaret said firmly. This is a celebration, not a pissing contest. Ethan earned this. You know that, Lena. Lena looked at her plate. Of course, but the resentment didn't leave her eyes. It sat there, coiled and patient, while the rest of the table moved on. Victor raised his glass from down the table. To earned rewards, he said. May we all live long enough to collect them. There was something in the way he said it that made the hairs on my arms lift. A joke, I told myself. Just a joke. I lifted my glass anyway. To earned rewards, I echoed. Later, when the plates were cleared and the crowd had shifted to the bar area of the private room, I found myself standing near the balcony doors with Marcel. The city spread out beyond the glass, lights flickering like 1,000 silent conversations. Marcel took a slow sip of scotch. How does it feel? He asked. Like someone made a mistake, I said. A very expensive mistake. He grinned. Imposter syndrome. I had that once. Then I saw my bonus numbers and got over it. I laughed. You seemed extra happy at the board meeting. I like it when the numbers work, he said. And right now, the numbers love you. Your print on the profit curve, Ethan. That equity grant? You deserve it. I studied his face. Marcel was good at reading rooms, at saying the right thing without sounding like he rehearsed it in front of a mirror. Right now, his expression was open. Relaxed. Brotherly. So what's the catch? I asked. He shrugged. Catch is simple. High up means long fall. You've tied your future to this place now. If the wind shifts, you're the first one they'll blame. Gregory wouldn't. Gregory loves you, he cut in. Sure. Margaret respects you. Amelia would burn the building down before she let them hurt you. He paused, eyes drifting across the room to where Victor and Lena were talking quietly near the bar. But love is sentimental. Money is structural. And structure always wins. That's cheerful, I said. He clinked his glass lightly against mine. I'm a CFO. We don't do cheerful. We do risk. I'm just telling you what you already know, and ignoring. I know the numbers, I said. We're strong. Stronger than ever. I'm not talking about the company, he replied. I'm talking about people. Before I could answer, someone grabbed my arm. Stop hiding, Amelia said, pulling me away. They want a speech. Absolutely not, I muttered. Too late, she said, dragging me toward the center of the room. You're the hero tonight. Heroes speak. Lena's voice rose above the chatter. Everyone, quiet. The miracle worker has something to say. There was a ripple of laughter and clinking glasses. Faces turned toward me, some admiring, some amused, some calculating. Victor leaned against the bar, arms crossed. Marcel hung back, half smile in place. Gregory and Margaret took their seats again, attention focused. Amelia stood beside me, her hand at the small of my back. Go on, she whispered. I cleared my throat, trying not to look as uncomfortable as I felt. I don't have a prepared speech, I began. Of course he doesn't, Lucas said. He's too busy working. More laughter, but I do have something to say, I went on. When I came here, I didn't come as family. I came as a guy with a resume and a chip on his shoulder. I didn't grow up with last names that open doors. I grew up with locked doors. And sometimes no doors at all. A hush settled over the room, polite and attentive. This company gave me a chance, I said. Gregory trusted me. Margaret tolerated me. That got a chuckle from her. Amelia believed in me before I believed in myself. And all of you, well, some of you, stopped glaring at me eventually. Lena rolled her eyes. Barely. I smiled. The numbers we're celebrating tonight aren't mine. They're ours. Victor's operational discipline. Lena's contracts, yes, I'm admitting that. Marcel's fiscal wizardry. Lucas's marketing campaigns. Nora's brand work. The plant managers who never see their families because they're on the floor at 3 a.m. The line workers who make sure we hit our deadlines. The accountants who triple check our messes. The assistants who keep our calendars from exploding. Everyone. I looked around the room, meeting eyes, Silas Donovan from procurement, Hannah Yates from HR, Priya Banerjee from Rand, Tom Richter from logistics. Names, faces, lives that intersected with mine only because of this building, this family, this machine. I don't take any of this for granted, I said. The equity, the title, the trust. I know what it's like to have nothing. So I promise you this, I will fight for this company and for the people in it with everything I have. If we rise together. If we fall. We won't, Amelia whispered. Then we'll rebuild, I finished. Stronger. Smarter. Harder to kill. That's my promise. There was a moment of silence, then a swell of applause. It started near Gregory and rolled through the room. People lifted their glasses. Someone whistled. The sound washed over me, warm and intoxicating. Amelia kissed my cheek. You're good at this, she murmured. You know that? I smiled. I try. As the crowd dispersed back into smaller clusters, Victor passed by, clapping me once on the shoulder, just a touch too hard. Nice speech, he said. Very. Loyal. Just telling the truth, I replied. His eyes met mine, flat and unreadable. Let's hope everyone remembers that. We got home past midnight. The condo's smart lights flicked on as we entered, bathing the living room in a soft golden glow. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the river, city lights smeared across the water like paint. Amelia kicked off her heels and dropped her clutch on the console table. I need to burn that dress, she said. It's cutting off my circulation. I loosened my tie and shrugged off my jacket. You looked incredible. Flattery, she said, walking toward the kitchen. I'll allow it. Want a drink? No, I said. If I drink any more, I'll start confessing my deep, dark secrets. She laughed, opening the fridge. Like what? That you staged all those performance reports? That the numbers are fake? That you're planning to sell the company to a shadowy cartel in Panama? Wow, I said. That's detailed. She grabbed 2 bottles of water instead and tossed one to me. You're terrible at relaxing. You know that, right? I'm relaxing now, I protested. You're staring at the window like you're trying to figure out how to monetize the river. Can we? I asked. She threw a dish towel at me. I caught it, smiling. She hopped up on the kitchen counter, swinging her legs, watching me as I loosened my shirt collar. You were amazing tonight, she said more softly. Dad was proud. Mom. Well, she didn't criticize you. That's basically a standing ovation. I leaned against the opposite counter, facing her. You helped. I didn't do anything. You're the reason they trusted me, I said. At least at first. She tilted her head. At first? You know what I mean. She looked at me for a long moment, then hopped off the counter and crossed the room. She slid her hands under my shirt, palms warm against my skin. They trust you now because you turned their nice little legacy into a beast, she said. You think Victor could have done what you did? Lena? Marcel? She shook her head. They needed you. You saved them from becoming irrelevant. That's dramatic, I said. I'm allowed to be dramatic about my husband, she replied. It's in the vows somewhere. I smiled, but a part of me remembered the look in Victor's eyes, the word line in Lena's voice, Marcel's warning about structure and risk. Not everyone's thrilled, I said. They don't have to be thrilled, she answered. They just have to keep up. I hesitated. Do you ever feel weird about it? About what? She asked. Me having that much equity. That much influence. The golden son-in-law. The guy everyone watches. She pulled back just enough to search my face. Do you? Sometimes, I admitted. I know how it looks. Outsider comes in, marries the boss's daughter, climbs the ladder. If I were them, I'd hate me a little. Well, good thing they're not you, she said. Besides, you didn't marry into this. You bled into it. Her voice softened. And if anyone has a problem with it, they can talk to me. I laughed. You going to fight them? I've seen the contracts, she said. I know where the bodies are buried. Amelia, I said, shaking my head. She smiled, then turned serious, her finger tracing a line down my chest. Listen to me, she said. You belong there. In that office, at that table, in those meetings. They need you as much as you need them. Don't you dare forget that. I won't, I said. Good. She rose onto her toes and kissed me, slow and deliberate. Now, can we stop thinking about shares and votes and just be 2 idiots with a really nice apartment? I let the tension slip out of my shoulders. Yeah, I said. We can do that. We didn't talk about work for the rest of the night. We didn't talk about Victor's stare or Lena's tone or Marcel's warning. We didn't talk about board votes or vesting schedules or the fact that my future was now chained, irrevocably, to theirs. We just existed. 2 people in a high-rise, believing the ground beneath them was solid. The following week moved like a blur on fast forward. Monday morning, 8 a.m., Victor and I sat in Gregory's office with printouts of staffing charts spread across the table. Victor's questions were sharp, precise, sometimes bordering on aggressive. I matched him point for point, data, projections, contingency plans. By the end of the meeting, Gregory nodded, satisfied. We're doing this, he said. Ethan's plan stands. Victor smiled thinly. Of course. Tuesday, I spent 12 hours with Marcel and the finance team, dissecting the next quarter's forecasts. He seemed more relaxed than usual, even made jokes about upgrading his boat. Maybe I'll name it after you, he said. Please don't, I replied. I'd rather not have a sinking vessel sharing my name. He laughed, clapped me on the shoulder. You worry too much. The galaxy is aligned. Wednesday, Lena and I reviewed a major contract renewal with a long-term supplier, Borealis Components. She was all business, sharp and efficient, dialing into calls, cutting down clauses. You're good at this, I admitted as we walked out of the conference room. I know, she replied. That's why it's annoying when everyone assumes you did everything. I don't assume that. You don't have to, she said. Everyone else does it for you. There it was again, that coiled resentment. I tried to diffuse it. Look, I said, if you want more visibility, we can. I don't want your charity, Ethan, she snapped. Then, seeing my expression, she sighed. Just forget it. I'm not the enemy here, I told her. She gave me a long, unreadable look. We'll see. Thursday, Gregory forwarded me an email from the board chair praising our performance and expressing excitement about further formalizing Ethan's leadership position in the months ahead. My heart hammered. This was beyond equity. This was succession. Big things coming, Gregory wrote under the forwarded text. We'll talk soon. I showed the email to Amelia that night. They're going to make you CEO someday, she said, eyes shining. I know it. That's not official, I said. But it's coming, she insisted. I can feel it. Friday morning, I woke up earlier than my alarm. The sky outside was still dark, city lights blinking like tired eyes. I lay there for a long moment, Amelia's breath warm against my shoulder, and thought, I did it. I truly did it. The kid with no doors now had keys to everything. I showered, dressed in my favorite charcoal suit, the one Gregory liked. I tied my best silk tie, a gift from Margaret on my last birthday. I adjusted my cufflinks, Amelia's anniversary gift. I looked in the mirror and saw a man at his peak. A man whose story was still rising. At the kitchen island, I scrolled through my calendar while drinking coffee. 8 a.m. Ops check-in with Victor. 9:30 a.m. HR alignment with Hannah Yates. 11 a.m. vendor negotiation with Borealis Components. 1 p.m. lunch with Marcel. 3 p.m. quick sync with Gregory. 4 p.m. all hands update, auditorium. A full day. A big day. Nothing unusual. Just the next step in the climb. Amelia shuffled out of the bedroom in an oversized t-shirt, hair in a messy bun. You're up early, she mumbled. Big day, I said. Aren't they all? Apparently, I said. She yawned, reaching for the coffee pot. You'll be late if you don't leave in 10 minutes. I know. I watched her pour coffee, the simple, almost mundane intimacy of it, and felt a wave of gratitude. For her. For this life. For all of it. Hey, I said suddenly. She looked up. What? Thank you, I said. For what? For believing in me when no one else did, I replied. For dragging me into your world and pretending I belonged there until it became true. She smiled, soft and genuine. Idiot, she said. You always belonged there. You just needed the right door. I crossed the small distance between us, kissed her forehead. I'll see you tonight, I said. Maybe we'll celebrate the equity news just the two of us. Sounds perfect, she said. Text me later, okay? Always, I said. I grabbed my briefcase, my phone, my keys. I stepped into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind me with a tidy finality I did not recognize as a warning. The elevator ride down was smooth, nearly silent. In the lobby, the doorman, Jared Mills, nodded at me. Morning, Mr. Cole. Morning, Jared. The car service Gregory insisted I use was already waiting. Oliver Dean, the driver, held the back door open. Big day, sir? He asked as I slipped inside. Aren't they all? I repeated. The city moved past the window, people rushing to work, delivery trucks blocking lanes, cyclists weaving through traffic. I watched it with a sense of calm satisfaction. This was my kingdom. This was my life. I'd worked for every inch of it. Nobody could take it away from me. I believed that completely. We pulled up to the front of the Hale Corbett building, all glass and steel and authority. Employees filed in through the revolving doors, ID badges swinging, coffee cups in hand. Oliver stepped out and opened my door. Have a good one, Mr. Cole. I plan to, I said, stepping onto the sidewalk. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A calendar alert. 4 p.m. all hands briefing. Topic, leadership realignment. I smiled. Probably wording Hannah had chosen. She loved phrases like realignment. It sounded like progress. Like evolution. I walked through the revolving doors, into the cool, conditioned air of the lobby. The security guard, Maya Flores, waved. The receptionist, Daniel Cho, smiled as I passed. A few employees nodded, whispered. I caught snippets of conversation, quarterly numbers, equity, promotion, but didn't linger on them. My future felt so secure I didn't see the cracks forming under my feet. I tapped my badge, the turnstile light flashed green, and I headed toward the elevator bank. The door slid open as I approached. I stepped inside, pressed 23, and watched the doors close. Somewhere above me, Victor Hale was already waiting. Somewhere nearby, Lena Corbett was adjusting a metaphorical knife. Somewhere in a glass-walled conference room, Marcel Rowan was arranging numbers into a story that ended with my name on a termination letter. I didn't know that yet. All I knew was that I was at my peak. That everything I'd ever wanted was finally in my hands. The elevator began to rise. By the time those doors slid open on that final Friday afternoon, everyone in the building would already know I was a dead man walking. Everyone except me. I should have known something was wrong the moment I stepped onto the 23rd floor. People were too quiet. Not silent, silence would have been obvious. This was something else, a heavy, anticipatory hush threaded through normal office noise. The kind of stillness that appears right before a storm hits and rips the roof off. Silas Donovan from procurement saw me first. He froze mid-stride, a folder tucked under his arm, mouth half open like he wanted to say good morning but wasn't sure if it was allowed. Priya Banerjee, walking beside him, gave me a small, uncomfortable smile that evaporated almost immediately. Weird. I checked my tie, my shirt, my badge, nothing out of place. Maybe it was just early. Maybe I was imagining it. Easy lie. I swallowed it whole. As I approached my office, Hannah Yates stepped out of hers, clutching a tablet against her chest like a shield. "Ethan," she said, too carefully. "Could you stop by conference room C? They're waiting for you." "They?" A small word with a very large shadow. "Who's they?" I asked. She opened her mouth, hesitated, then closed it again. Her throat bobbed. "Conference room C," she repeated. "Hannah." I lowered my voice. "Is everything all right?" Her eyes darted away. "They asked me not to." "Not to what?" She pressed her lips together. "Not defiant. Not angry. Worried. Just go," she said quietly. "Please." A knot tightened at the base of my spine. I walked past her anyway, heading for my office door. "Ethan," she said sharply. "Not your office. Conference room C." My hand hovered above the handle for a second. Then I turned and walked. Conference room C was at the end of the executive corridor, a glass-walled room overlooking the city like some kind of corporate throne room. The blinds were drawn. That never happened. My heartbeat stuttered. I gripped the door handle, took a breath, and pushed it open. And there they were. Gregory Hale at the head of the table. Margaret Hale beside him, hands folded, face carved from cold marble. Victor Hale, leaning back in his chair like he'd already won something. Lena Corbett, eyes sharp and bright, almost eager. Marcel Rowan, expression unreadable, a thick stack of papers in front of him. And my wife. Amelia sat near the far end of the table, eyes fixed on the polished wood surface, jaw clenched so tight it could have cracked. I stopped in the doorway. "Morning," I said slowly, carefully. "This is quite a group. What's going on?" No one answered. Except Victor, of course. He smiled. "Please, Ethan. Have a seat." His tone was soft. Too soft. A predator's purr. I stepped inside and sat in the only empty chair, directly across from Gregory. My pulse hammered behind my ribs. Gregory didn't look at me. Not really. His eyes were locked on some point just beyond my left shoulder, like he was reading invisible text on the glass behind me. "Ethan," he began, voice low, "we've received some troubling reports." "What reports?" I asked. Margaret slid a folder across the table. Her movements were precise, surgical. I opened it. Internal financial discrepancies. Approval signatures I didn't recognize. Emails I never wrote. Numbers I never touched. Decisions I didn't make. Fabricated. So obviously fabricated it would have been laughable if everyone in the room wasn't staring at me like I was a loaded weapon about to go off. I looked up. "This is garbage. Where did this come from?" Victor sighed dramatically. "We all wanted to believe that. Truly." "Cut the bullshit," I snapped. "Where did this come from?" "Anonymous submissions," Marcel said calmly. "Multiple. Over the past month. We've been investigating quietly." "You've been, what?" My voice climbed. "Investigating me? Without telling me? Without even talking to me?" "We had to be sure," Margaret said coldly. "We couldn't risk tipping you off." "Tipping me off to what?" I slammed the folder shut. "Forgery? Sabotage? You know these numbers aren't mine. And my signature, look at it." It's not even close. Victor lifted a second set of papers. Forensic analysis shows the signatures are authentic. That's impossible, I shot back. Run them again. We ran them 3 times, he said. 3, Lena leaned forward, her voice syrup sweet. It's impressive, honestly. The way you manipulated the supply chain data? Most people wouldn't have been able to hide it that well. I stared at her. Are you out of your mind? You know I didn't do this. She shrugged. Do I? Gregory finally spoke, voice trembling slightly. Ethan. The board convened an emergency session this morning. The room swayed. What? I whispered. They voted, he said. Unanimously. Voted on what? I breathed. Victor leaned forward, clasping his hands together. Your termination. The words didn't land all at once. They came in pieces, sharp, slicing pieces that cut deeper as they sank. You're firing me, I said. Effective immediately, Margaret replied. No. I shook my head. No, this doesn't make sense. After everything, after the equity package you just approved, after last quarter, after last night you're firing me based on anonymous reports and forged documents? Evidence, Victor corrected. Not forged. Evidence of what? I roared. The room went still. The kind of stillness that means they've already buried you. Victor slid another folder forward, this one labeled Ethan Cole, Internal Review Findings. We found discrepancies in your communications with Borealis components, he said. Emails suggesting you approved preferential payment terms without board authorization. Skimming off the top of incentive pools. Falsifying performance reports. I didn't write those emails. Server logs say you did. Logs can be altered. Lena tilted her head. Why would anyone alter logs to frame you? I stared at her. At Victor. At Marcel. At Gregory. At Margaret. At Amelia. Her eyes were wet. Not crying, just full. Brimming. She looked like someone was holding a knife to her ribs just off camera. Amelia, I said quietly. You know I didn't do this. She didn't look up. Something inside me cracked. Amelia, I repeated, louder. Look at me. Her throat tightened. Ethan. Please don't. Look at me. She lifted her eyes. And I saw it. Guilt. Fear. And something like resignation. My stomach dropped. You believe them, I whispered. She flinched like I'd slapped her. My stomach dropped. You believe them, I whispered. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I don't know what to believe, she said. I want to believe you. But the evidence. The evidence is fake. Victor sighed. This is becoming circular. I pointed at him. You did this. Didn't you? He smiled. You're upset. Understandable. You set me up. Now why would I do that? He asked lightly. For the chair, I spat. The board wants succession. And I'm in your way. He didn't deny it. He didn't need to. Gregory stood abruptly. Enough. The board has decided. The vote is final. You are terminated for cause. For cause, I echoed. So you can take back the equity. The shares. The power. Nobody answered. I laughed. Loud, sharp, humorless. This is unbelievable. You realize you're destroying the company? You're firing the guy who. We built this company long before you, Margaret snapped. And it will survive long after. You're making a mistake, I said. A huge one. The mistake, Victor said quietly, was letting you get this far. My chest tightened. This isn't just about the company, I said slowly. Is it? Silence. Then Lena spoke, her voice like a blade. You really thought you could walk into this family and take everything? Our contracts? Our influence? The board's loyalty? Gregory's attention? Amelia's future? I stared at her. That's it, I said. You're jealous. She didn't even hide it. I'm correcting an imbalance. I turned to Marcel. And you? You? After everything? He looked down. I'm sorry. No, I whispered. No, you're not. Gregory cleared his throat. Security is waiting outside. Hand over your badge, your company phone, and your laptop. I felt the world tilt, spin, break. You're humiliating me, I said quietly. In front of my wife. Margaret's voice was icy. Your wife deserves the truth. I looked at Amelia again. Tell them, I said. Tell them I didn't do this. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't know what happened, she whispered. I don't know. Victor stood. Time to go. Security entered, Brandon Tate and Rosa McKinney, two guards I knew well. They looked at me with a mixture of pity and professional detachment. Sir, Brandon said softly. Please stand. I stood. Not because they told me. But because I refused to let these people see me collapse. I removed my badge. My phone. My laptop. Placed them on the table. Then I looked at each of them, Gregory, Margaret, Victor, Lena, Marcel. And finally Amelia. Remember this moment, I said, voice steady despite the earthquake inside me. Every second of it. Because I will. Victor smirked. Threats already? No, I said. A promise. Brandon touched my elbow lightly. This way, Mr. Cole. I walked out. Head high. Heart shattered. Everything I'd built, gone in minutes. Employees stared as I passed, whispering. Doors opened. Eyes widened. People stepped back. A walk of shame carefully engineered by people who once called me family. When the elevator doors closed around me, cutting me off from their stares, my breath finally broke in my chest. They had destroyed me. Utterly. Completely. And they thought that was the end. But endings can be rewritten. And revenge grows fastest in the dark. The security doors closed behind me with a heavy thud that echoed through my ribs like a bruise. The lobby felt colder than usual, too bright, too exposed. Employees pretended not to stare, their eyes flicked toward me and immediately snapped away, as if proximity alone might contaminate them. I walked past the reception desk where Daniel Cho swallowed hard and gave a stiff nod. He looked like he wanted to say something, sorry, maybe, or good luck, but the words strangled themselves before they could escape. Outside, the city was loud and alive, the way it always was on a Friday afternoon, but it all sounded like static in my skull. I didn't hear the traffic. I didn't hear the chatter. I didn't hear anything except the dull, rhythmic pulse of blood in my ears and the faint echo of Victor's voice. The mistake was letting you get this far. I stood on the sidewalk numbly, unsure whether to turn left, right, or let gravity drop me straight through the concrete. People flowed around me like water around a rock, impatient, annoyed, indifferent. I pulled out my personal phone, fingers trembling. One message. From Amelia, 12:47 p.m. Please come home. We need to talk. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Home. Talk. Words that used to mean safety now felt like instructions on how to walk into a second ambush. Oliver, the driver, was parked exactly where he always waited, engine humming. When he saw me standing on the curb, his brows knotted in concern. He stepped out, opening the back door. Mr. Cole, everything all right? I shook my head. Not even close. He didn't ask anything else. He just held the door for me like a small act of dignity he refused to let go. I sat down heavily and closed my eyes as the city began to slide past the windows. Halfway across the bridge, my phone buzzed again. From Marcel. I'm sorry. Couldn't stop it. Don't contact me for a while. I stared at the message, hand clenching until the phone creaked. Couldn't stop it? Or wouldn't? Another buzz. From Hannah Yates. I didn't want this. Please be careful who you trust. My throat tightened. The way she said it. It sounded like a warning. I typed back, who did this? Her reply came instantly. I can't say yet. Just. Protect yourself. Yet. Something about that word chilled me. Oliver parked in front of the condo. I got out slowly, legs unsteady. As I rode the elevator up, reality began to unspool in fragments. The equity package gone, the reputation scorched, the building that once felt like mine shutting its doors forever. And worst of all, Amelia. What she knew. What she didn't. What she allowed. The condo door opened before I reached for the handle. She stood there with red-rimmed eyes, arms wrapped around herself like she was holding in the pieces of something broken. For a second, neither of us spoke. Ethan, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt too final. You believe them, I said quietly. I don't know what to believe, she whispered. They showed me the emails. Your signature. Server logs. Audit reports. It all looked manufactured, I snapped. Engineered. This was planned. She flinched. You're scaring me. I turned away, pacing the living room in jagged lines. Good. Be scared. Because I am. Her voice trembled. They said if I told you anything before the meeting, I'd be implicated in the cover-up. They said I could lose everything. I spun around. So you chose them. She didn't argue. Her silence was the answer. I sank onto the couch, head in my hands. I gave them everything. I gave you everything. I know, she whispered. And I swear, if this is some setup, if someone framed you, I'll help you prove it. Just tell me the truth. Did you do any of it? I looked at her. Really looked. The woman who once told me she'd follow me anywhere now couldn't decide whether I was her husband or a criminal. No, I said. I didn't do a damn thing. Tears spilled down her cheeks again. Then why would they? Because I was getting too close, I said. Too powerful. Too necessary. And that terrifies people who think the company belongs to their bloodline. She sank next to me, trembling. What do we do now? We? I echoed. She winced like the word cut her open. I stood abruptly. I need air. Ethan. I just need a minute. I walked onto the balcony, gripping the railing hard enough that the metal bit into my palms. The city stretched out below, indifferent, glittering, hungry. My life lay in ruins behind me. My future had been burned alive in a conference room. My wife was slipping through my fingers like smoke. And somewhere in that building I once called home, 3 people, Victor, Lena, and Marcel, were celebrating the execution of the man they thought would stay dead. They had no idea what they just created. Collapse is only the first stage. Ruin is where the rebuilding begins. Night swallowed the condo whole. I didn't turn on a single light. I didn't need to see the wreckage of my life laid out in high definition. My reflection in the blackout windows was enough. A man stripped of purpose. A man discarded. A man who had been naive enough to think family loyalty could withstand envy, ambition, and greed. I stood on the balcony until the cold numbed my fingers. Below, the river carved a silver scar through the city. I watched headlights streak across the bridges like restless comets. Everything kept moving, indifferent to the fact that my world had been detonated. Behind me, the sliding door opened softly. Ethan? Amelia's voice was careful, fragile. It's freezing. Come inside. I didn't turn around. I'm fine. You're not. She stepped closer. Please. Talk to me. I exhaled slowly. Talking got me destroyed. That's not fair. I'm not aiming for fairness. She wrapped her arms around herself. What are you going to do? The real question hovered unsaid. What are you going to do to them? I finally faced her. Her eyes were swollen, makeup smudged, but her gaze was steady. Who told you first? I asked. She blinked. What? In the days leading up to today, who hinted something was wrong? Someone said something. Her jaw stiffened. That tiny motion was all the answer I needed. Victor, I said. She swallowed hard. He said there were inconsistencies. That the board was concerned. He said he was trying to protect me. I laughed, short, sharp, and bitter. Of course he did. He said he didn't want me blindsided. Blindsided? I repeated. But you were. You were blindsided on purpose, Amelia. He used you to gauge my reaction. To see if I suspected anything. She shook her head. I didn't tell him anything. You didn't have to. Your face tells a story you don't realize you're telling. Her voice cracked. You think I betrayed you. I think you were played, I said. The way I was. The way all of us were. She stepped closer. Then let me help you fix it. I stared at her for a long moment, searching her face for any sign of deception. I found none. Just fear and a desperate desire to make this right. You can't help me, I said quietly. Not yet. Why not? Because the people who ruined me are the same people who share your blood. And until you decide who you stand with, I can't risk pulling you into what comes next. Her breath hitched. What is coming next? I stepped past her into the dark living room. War. Around midnight, I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Amelia rushed after me. Where are you going? To think, I said. And to start putting pieces together. Please don't do anything reckless. Reckless got me fired. Calculated will get me back everything. She grabbed my wrist. Ethan, wait. I stopped. Barely. Come home, she whispered. No matter what happens. Promise me you'll come home. I didn't answer. I didn't lie either. I just left. The city's cold air slapped me awake as I walked aimlessly, hands stuffed in my pockets. I went nowhere and everywhere, past the riverfront, through the business district, down the narrow side streets where the light gave up trying. At some point, I ended up outside the Brass Lantern, a quiet bar tucked between a law office and a vape shop. The sign flickered like it was considering giving up. Inside, soft jazz hummed under low light. Only a few people occupied the booths. The bartender, Clara Finch, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a gentler voice, looked up. "You look like you need something strong," she said. "Whiskey," I replied. "Whatever won't blind me." She poured a double without another word. I took a seat in the far corner, letting the darkness wrap around me like a cloak. One swallow of the whiskey drew a slow burn down my chest, anchoring me. A minute later, someone slid into the seat across from me. I didn't look up. "Taken?" "Not anymore," a familiar voice said. I lifted my head. Hannah Yates. Hair pulled back. Coat still on. Eyes sharp with urgency. "How did you find me?" I asked. "I tracked your phone." She held up a hand. "Not illegally. You never disabled your emergency locator." I snorted. "Convenient." "I needed to talk to you," she said. "Privately." I leaned back. "Then talk." She glanced around, lowering her voice. "You didn't do this." "I know you didn't." "So does anyone with a brain cell," I muttered. "Not everyone," she said. "And that's the problem." I narrowed my eyes. "You know something?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. But if I tell you, I'm putting myself at risk." "Then why are you here?" "Because what they did today was wrong," she said fiercely. "And because I owe you." "For what?" "For treating me like a person when everyone else treated HR like a nuisance." I sighed. "Hannah. Tell me." She leaned forward, voice barely a whisper. "The internal review wasn't real." "I figured that." "No, Ethan. I mean, there wasn't one. They never opened a case file. They never launched an audit. They fabricated everything." My pulse spiked. "Who?" I demanded. She glanced toward the door, then back to me. "Victor pushed it. Lena supplied the fake emails. And Marcel." My chest tightened. "What about Marcel?" "He altered the financial records himself." For a moment, the world blurred at the edges. "Marcel did that?" She nodded. "I saw him in the restricted archive room last week. He claimed Gregory authorized it, but Gregory didn't sign anything." I checked. I gripped the edge of the table. "Why are they doing this?" "Because of the equity package," she said. "And what was coming next?" "The board chair's email," I whispered. "You were being positioned as successor," Hannah said. "Officially. And they knew it." The words landed like a blade sliding between ribs. Successor. They hadn't just fired me. They'd executed a preemptive coup. I took a slow breath. "Hannah. This could save me." "It could get me fired," she said. "Or worse." "I won't let that happen." She stared at me, searching for something. "You're going to fight them." "No," I said quietly. "I'm going to dismantle them." She swallowed. "Then you'll need help." "I will," I agreed. "But not from anyone on the inside. Not yet." "What do you need from me?" "Information," I said. "Off the record. Anything you can gather without risking your job. Patterns. Access logs. Emails. Schedules. Everything." Her expression hardened with determination. "I can do that." "And Hannah?" "Yes?" "Not a word to anyone." She nodded once. "Understood." I stood, tossing cash on the table. "This isn't the end." "No," she said, eyes shining with something dark and certain. "It's the beginning." I stepped out into the cold night, a spark burning low and dangerous in my chest. They thought they had buried me. They thought humiliation would break me. They thought firing me would end me. They were wrong. You don't bury a man like me. You plant him. And tomorrow, the first roots of my revenge would begin to grow. I barely slept. My mind wouldn't allow it. Every time I closed my eyes, the conference room replayed itself, Victor's smirk, Lena's sharpened voice, Marcel's quiet betrayal. Amelia's shaking hands. The badge sliding across the table like a forfeited life. By dawn, I wasn't tired. I was crystallized. Revenge isn't rage. It's architecture. Calculations. Angles. Leverage. You don't swing blindly, you build the weapon first. And by sunrise, I knew exactly where to start. I drove across town to a place that used to be a factory and now pretended to be an innovation hub. Inside, rows of co-working desks buzzed with early risers, startups, consultants, night owls who hadn't gone home. I rented a private room for the month. Paid in cash. The room was small, just a table, a whiteboard, and a window facing a brick wall. Perfect. Nothing to distract me. Nothing to comfort me. I unpacked my bag, laptop, notebook, markers. On the whiteboard, I drew 3 names like targets. Victor Hale. Lena Corbett. Marcel Rowan. Under each, I wrote one word. Motives. Victor wanted the crown. He'd spent his entire life being groomed for leadership until I came in and outperformed him at every turn. He couldn't beat me cleanly, so he'd gutted me from the shadows. Lena wanted recognition. She thought the company owed her status, power, prestige. She hated that I'd walked in with nothing and earned everything she believed was her inheritance. Marcel wanted safety. Money. Influence. He'd bonded with me, sure, but loyalty to me meant risking the Hale's wrath. He chose the stronger fortress. So I'd build one they couldn't escape from. First step, resources. They'd taken my job, but not my skills. Not my memory. Not my network. I opened my laptop, connected to a private VPN, and began digging. Every vendor contract I'd ever negotiated. Every supply chain vulnerability I'd ever warned them about. Every buried weakness they'd ignored because my solutions were too expensive. The company had blind spots, glaring ones, and 2 years ago, I'd built contingency plans for every one of them. They never listened. They would now. I wrote out a list of names, people who owed me favors, people whose careers I'd quietly salvaged, people Victor had alienated. Silas Donovan. Procurement. Smart, underappreciated, and deeply resentful of Victor. Nora Grant. Branding. Saw through Lena's fake compliments and hated her for it. Tom Richter. Logistics. A man whose loyalty was earned through honesty, and Victor had lied to him repeatedly. Priya Banerjee. Rand. Brilliant, overlooked, and dangerously underestimated. These were not allies. Not yet. But they were pressure points, and pressure points become levers. Around noon, I stepped outside to clear my head. Cold air bit at my cheeks. Across the street, a small cafe was just opening. I ordered a black coffee and sat near the window. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, we need to meet. Urgent. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Another buzz. If you want proof of what they did to you, come alone. Location attached. A risk. A trap. Or an opportunity. I finished the coffee, tossed the cup, and headed for the address. It was an old warehouse near the river, half abandoned, half pretending not to be. I stepped inside cautiously. Footsteps echoed from the far side. Ethan. The voice was familiar. Owen Brackett stepped out from behind a stack of crates. Former IT security engineer. Fired last year after he clashed with, of course, Victor. Owen, I said. You look like hell. You look worse, he replied. Fair enough. What's this about? I asked. He held up a flash drive. I copied something before they kicked me out. What kind of something? The kind you get murdered for, he said. Encrypted audit logs. Email drafts. Access overrides. My pulse quickened. Of who? Your friends Victor, Lena, and Marcel, he said. And a few others. I stepped closer. Why are you giving this to me? Because Victor ruined my career, Owen said. And because I liked you. You treated me like my work mattered. I took the flash drive. Is this enough to clear me? Maybe, he said. But it's definitely enough to burn them. I exhaled slowly. Then you're saving the right man. He shook his head. No. I'm handing gasoline to someone who looks like he's already holding a match. I didn't deny it. Back at the workspace, I plugged in the drive. Layers of encrypted files unfolded like concealed blueprints. Emails drafted by Lena but sent from my account. Access logs edited by Marcel. Security overrides approved by Victor. A deletion schedule marked for post-termination cleanup. They hadn't framed me sloppily. They'd framed me perfectly, because they thought no one would ever find this. I leaned back in my chair, adrenaline burning cold and clean through my veins. I'm not clearing my name, I murmured. I'm destroying theirs. On the whiteboard, I erased motives and wrote a new word under each name. Weakness. Victor's arrogance. Lena's vanity. Marcel's fear. These weren't just traits. They were handles. And once you find the handles, you can break anyone. The architecture of my revenge had its foundation. Next came construction. Brick by brick. Or bone by bone. Victor always prided himself on control. On being the calm voice in chaos, the man with the plan when everyone else was scrambling. If you want to break someone like that, you don't punch them in the face. You make them watch control slip through their fingers in public. You make them doubt their own footing. You make their empire rot from the inside. Sunday morning, I woke before the sun, dressed, and headed straight to the co-working bunker. Coffee. Laptop. Flash drive. Whiteboard. I didn't waste time. The encrypted logs Owen had given me were dense, but I'd spent a decade turning chaos into clean systems. This was just another messy process waiting to be untangled. By 9 a.m., Victor's habits were laid out like a confession. He'd done more than frame me, he'd been skimming off operational budgets for years, burying it in layered vendor structures. Fake consulting invoices. Inflated maintenance fees. Shell companies with bland names and P.O. boxes for addresses. Most people would only see noise. I saw a pattern. A rhythm. In one browser tab, I opened a blank spreadsheet. In another, the logs. Line by line, I connected the dots. Hale Operations Solutions, LLC, Shell. Owned, through a chain of proxies, by an entity controlled by Victor. Invoices routed through plants in Owensville, Carthage, and Port Hollow. Payments approved late at night, when audits were least likely. Millions. Quiet, patient millions. Victor hadn't just gutted me. He'd been gutting the company for a long time. I felt nothing. No shock. Just clarity. The man who killed me was a thief. Appropriate. I compiled a package, logs, invoices, ownership records. Then I wrote a clean, clinical summary. No emotion. No accusations. Just structure and impact. On the whiteboard, beneath his name, I wrote: Victor, fraud. Embezzlement. Self-dealing. I took a photo of the board, not because I needed it, but because it felt like a trophy. The first call I made wasn't to the board. It was to someone far more dangerous. Eleanor Knox. The woman who answered on the second ring sounded bored and alert at the same time. Speaking. Eleanor, it's Ethan Cole. A pause. The golden boy who just got publicly executed? Interesting. To what do I owe the honor? Eleanor was an activist investor with a reputation for carving up complacent companies like Sunday Roasts. Hale Corbett had kept her at bay for years. Until now. I have information you'll want, I said. On Hale Corbett manufacturing. Specifically, operations. Oh? I could hear the grin entering her voice. And why would I trust anything from the recently disgraced ex-executive? Because I can prove my disgrace was manufactured, I replied. And I can prove Victor Hale has been stealing from the company he's pretending to save. A longer pause. I'm listening, she said. I emailed her the stripped-down version. Victor's shell companies, the money flow, the conflicts of interest. Within minutes, my phone buzzed with a new email, an NDA she'd slapped together with terrifying speed. I skimmed it. Standard. Aggressive, but not suicidal. Signed it. Sent it back. 2 minutes later, she called again. This, she said, is nuclear. Accurate. You're sure it holds up? Down to the cent. What do you want? She asked. No one gives me this for free. Here it was, the first real move. I want you to pressure the board, I said. Leak nothing yet. Not until I say. But I want them terrified. I want an emergency session. I want Victor under a microscope by Monday morning. You think they'll pick you over their blood? She asked. I don't need them to pick me, I said. I just need them to panic. You're good at panic, Eleanor. She laughed softly. Flattery and weapons. I like you, Ethan. I'm not flirting, I said. I'm loading a gun and putting it in your hand. Then let's shoot someone worth the bullet, she replied. I'll start making calls. Next step, the internal pressure. I texted Hannah. I'm moving on Victor first. Don't react to anything unusual tomorrow. Just observe. She replied. Understood. I'll monitor. I sent a second message. If the board reaches out to HR, I want to know exactly when and why. You will, she wrote back. I believed her. Not because I trusted easily, but because she'd already picked a side without realizing it. By early afternoon, I knew Eleanor had started. Financial blogs my industry watched like hawks suddenly buzzed with speculation, unnamed sources, concerns about governance issues and operational integrity at Hale Corbett. Nothing concrete. Just smoke. But smoke travels. It always finds the right lungs. Late Sunday, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Ethan? Gregory's voice sounded older, more frayed. We need to talk. I let the silence stretch just long enough to sting. I'm surprised you're calling, I said. Isn't that against protocol for terminated criminals? He exhaled. I can't talk long. The board is picking up worrying signals. Investors are jumpy. Someone's whispering about irregularities in operations. Oh? I asked innocently. Sounds serious. Cut the sarcasm, he snapped. Did you do this? Are you attacking the company? I haven't leaked anything, I said truthfully. Yet, he repeated softly. Ethan. If you come at us, you come at everyone. Not just Victor. No, I said. I'm coming at the people who framed me. The ones stealing from the company while calling me a liability. His silence told me he understood exactly who I meant. You have proof? He asked. Yes. Send it. No. Ethan. You made your choice Friday, I said. You can make a new one Monday. Until then, you can sit with the fact that you fired the man who was protecting your company from the snake in your own house. He swallowed. I could hear his breath catch. What do you want? He asked. There it was. Not accusation. Not condemnation. Fear. I want you to watch Victor Hale burn, I said quietly. From the front row. Then I hung up. They ruined me on a Friday. On Sunday night, while Victor slept in his expensive bed, dreaming of promotions and succession, the foundations of his power began to rot. Board members whispering. Investors circling like vultures with calculators. HR watching. Audit logs ready to be weaponized. He still thought he'd won. He didn't know I'd already chosen the stage. Tomorrow, I'd push him into the light. And watch the eldest villain fracture. Monday morning didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like a reckoning. I got to the co-working bunker before 7, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. A message from Hannah waited at the top of my notifications like a loaded gun. Hannah. Emergency board call 7:30 a.m. agenda, governance concerns, ops irregularities. Victor is rattled. Marcel requested a private pre-brief and was denied. Good. Let him sweat. I logged in, checked the market chatter. Eleanor's quiet pressure campaign had done its job, nothing explicit, but Hale Corbett's name was floating around in the same sentences as red flags and operational opacity. That was enough to make any seasoned board member suddenly discover a spine. At 7:28, my phone rang. Marcel. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. On the fourth try, I answered. Ethan, he blurted. No hello, no preamble. His voice shook. What did you do? I leaned back. Good morning to you too. The board is losing it, he said. Papers rustled on his end. There are concerns about Victor's vendor structures, questions about conflict of interest disclosures. They think someone's been siphoning money out of operations. He lowered his voice. That's your work, isn't it? Not my work, I said. Just my discovery. You're insane, he hissed. If this blows up, the stock tanks. The company, I cut in, has already been bleeding. I'm just pointing at the wound. He was silent for a beat. You're going to drag us all down, he said finally. You, Victor, Lena, me. Funny you think you're grouped with us, I said. You made your choice on Friday. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, I replied. You chose the winning side. The one you thought would crush me and carry you. The board believed the evidence, he said weakly. I just corroborated what they already thought. You fabricated numbers, I said. You altered logs. You helped forge my execution. He swallowed audibly. I was following directives. Whose? He hesitated. Victor. Mostly. Some from Margaret. A few. Suggestions from Lena. There it was. The chain of rot. You're calling for a reason, I said. Say it. He exhaled shakily. Help me, he whispered. If you have proof Victor's been stealing, if you give it to me, I can reposition. I'll back you. I'll tell the board the investigation into you is compromised. You'll throw him under the bus, I said. To save yourself. This is survival, he snapped. I have a family, Ethan. 2 kids. A mortgage, I can't go down for this. You should have thought about that before you buried me alive, I said. Silence again. Then, softer, I'm sorry. There it is, I murmured. Begging already, Marcel? You're early. I'm not begging, he said, but the tremor in his voice called him a liar. I'm asking for a way out. You're smart enough to know burning everything helps no one. Wrong, I said. It helps me. The board will never let you back in, he argued. Even if Victor falls, they'll never trust you again. You're dreaming if you think this ends with you back in the building. I don't want to step back into their building, I said. I want to own it. He laughed, a short, panicked bark. You've lost your mind. Maybe, I replied. But I've gained something more useful. What's that? Leverage. I moved to the whiteboard and drew a line through Marcel Rowan. Time to crush the serpent. Here's what you're going to do, I said. You're going to forward an email to the board's audit committee summarizing your concerns about historical operational payments. You'll CC Gregory. You'll position it as something you recently uncovered. You want me to admit I missed it? He demanded. You want to live? I countered. You'll tell them you've identified irregularities tied to external entities possibly controlled by Victor. You'll recommend an independent forensic review. You'll insist you couldn't disclose sooner because you feared retribution. That makes me look incompetent. It makes you look late, I said. But not criminal. That won't protect me forever. It doesn't have to, I said. It just has to get you talking. On record. In writing. He hesitated. And what do I get for feeding him to the wolves? You get a chance to keep your license and maybe avoid prison, I said. I'll share enough with the committee to corroborate your discoveries. You'll be seen as a flawed gatekeeper, not an architect. And you? He asked. What about me? Where do you fall in this story? His voice was bitter now. The noble whistleblower? The wrong genius? I fall on top of the rubble, I said quietly. That's all you need to know. He was breathing hard. This is insane, he muttered. Then, almost to himself, but if I don't do it and Victor drags me down. I waited. Finally, he spoke. Fine. I'll send it. But I want your assurance. You're not in a position to negotiate, I said. Hit send, Marcel. He didn't answer, but I heard keyboard clacks through the line. A soft whoosh. Done, he said. Good, I replied. Now sit tight. When the board drags you into a separate session, you're going to be very cooperative. That's it? He asked, voice cracking. You're just orchestrating my humiliation? No, I said. I'm orchestrating your exposure. Humiliation is just the side effect. 20 minutes later, Hannah texted me. Audit committee just received a bomb from Marcel. Emergency subsession in 10. Victor looked blindsided. Margaret furious. Gregory shaken. Another message followed. Board chair requested all logs, supplier connections, and payment histories from the last 3 years. Victor is demanding to be in the room. They told him to wait. I could almost see it, Victor pacing like a caged animal while the board picked apart his carefully hidden crimes. Marcel sitting there, sweating, pretending his hands were only half dirty. Then the real message came. My phone rang. Video call request. Gregory. I accepted. His face filled the screen, drawn, pale, angrier than I'd ever seen it. What have you done? He asked. Good morning, I said. You look stressed. We've found shell entities tied to operational payments, he said. Millions routed through companies no one can explain. The trail runs right into Victor's hands. His jaw clenched. And Marcel claims he just put it together. Conveniently after an external investor starts circling. Sounds like you have a mess, I said. This is your doing, he snapped. You and Eleanor Knox. Consider it a mirror, I replied. You don't like what you see, break the glass, not the reflection. He rubbed his eyes. If this goes public, the company takes a massive hit. The family. The family decided, on Friday, that preserving its illusions mattered more than truth, I said. You fired the man who actually kept your house in order. Now you're realizing who you kept instead. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, he looked old. What do you want, Ethan? He asked, much softer. Victor is in serious trouble. The board is furious. Margaret is already talking about damage control. We can remove him. We can protect the company. Just stop pushing. There it was. The first crack. I don't want you to remove him quietly, I said. I want him stripped. Publicly. I want his resignation attributed to ethical violations. I want an internal memo that clears my name of financial misconduct and acknowledges the possibility of internal tampering. That will open us up to liability, he said. Or it will make investors think you finally give a damn about integrity, I replied. And it will signal to certain outside parties that the board is ready for a change in direction. Certain outside parties, he echoed. He knew exactly who I meant. You do that, I said, and I'll keep the deepest cuts between us. He stared at me for a long, long moment. I don't even recognize you, he said quietly. You never knew me, I answered. You knew the version of me that believed you were worth bleeding for. He swallowed. I'll speak to the board. Do more than speak, I said. Act. You're running out of time. By midday, the headlines were still quiet. Inside the building, though, chaos was loud. Hannah sent updates in short bursts. Victor removed from emergency session. Marcel sweating through his shirt. He keeps saying I was pressured. Margaret is lobbying to keep this internal. Board chair isn't buying it. Gregory looks like he aged 10 years in an hour. Then. Internal memo drafted, Victor placed on immediate leave pending independent investigation. Audit committee calling it serious breaches of fiduciary duty. They're revising your termination language. I exhaled slowly. The serpent had bitten itself. Marcel called again. This time, I answered with speaker on and notebook open. Well? I asked. He was panting. You destroyed him. They're forcing him out, leave pending investigation, my ass. He's finished. Relief bled into his voice. And my position. They're calling me negligent, but not complicit. With the right spin, I can survive this. Good, I said. It will make what comes next much more interesting. He hesitated. What? What comes next? You still helped frame me, I said. You still dragged my name through the mud, handed them a loaded gun and pointed it at my head. I told you I'll help fix that, he insisted. I'll testify. I'll give statements. You're going to do better than that, I said. You're going to sign a detailed confession outlining exactly how evidence against me was manipulated. You'll specify who instructed you, who benefited, and what you altered. His breath hitched. That's suicide. That's atonement, I said. You want my help? You want me to keep what I know from regulators and prosecutors? You're going to beg on paper, Marcel. I can't. My career. Your career is already over, I said, voice like ice. This is about how you spend what's left of your life. Behind a desk or behind bars. He was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was smaller. Please, Ethan. I'm asking you man to man. Don't do this to me. I'll let the words hang there. Let him sit in them. You did this to yourself, I said. You chose your side. Now choose how you fall. He sniffed. I realized, with a distant sort of detachment, that he was crying. I'll send you a draft, he whispered. Good, I replied. Be honest. Brutal. I'm done editing other people's lies. That afternoon, while the company scrambled to contain Victor's implosion, I received an email from an anonymous address. Subject line, for whatever it's worth. Attachment, a draft confession. Marcel detailed everything, how Victor approached him, how Lena delivered the forged emails, how Margaret insisted my removal had to be clean. How they'd built a perfect case around a man who'd done nothing but outperform them. Every line was a brick in the wall closing around them. Every paragraph another coil around Marcel's own throat. I read the whole thing slowly. Then I picked up my phone and called him one last time. This, I said, is a start. Will you keep your side of the bargain? He asked, voice hoarse. Will you keep me out of prison? No, I said. But I'll keep you out of the worst cell. He inhaled sharply. You promised. I promised to give you a chance, I said. You got that. Barely. The rest is up to the people you helped empower to destroy me. Ethan, please. Listen carefully, I said. One day soon, We'll be in the same room again. You'll look me in the eye and you'll apologize for everything in front of everyone who matters. You'll beg. And when that moment comes, you'll understand something important. What? He whispered. That forgiveness, I said, isn't coming. I hung up. The serpent had fallen, not with a dramatic headline, not yet, but with something quieter, crueler. The knowledge that his fate now depended on the man he tried to bury. If Victor was the blade they used to cut me out, Lena was the poison they dripped into every vein of that company. She didn't shout like Victor. She didn't slam doors, pound tables, or threaten. She smiled, whispered, and rewrote reality in the fine print. Victor wanted the throne. Lena wanted the narrative, her name woven into every contract, every strategic partnership, every whispered legend about Hale Corbett's success. So I decided to set fire to her story. Tuesday morning, Hannah's text hit my phone at 6:12 a.m. Victor, officially on leave. Internal memo cleared you of personal financial gain but kept data irregularities language. Margaret furious. Lena. Quiet. Too quiet. Of course she was quiet. She'd survived the blast that took out Victor. She was already calculating how to step into the vacuum. Not today. I opened the file from Owen again, this time drilling into Lena's trails, vendor amendments, contract appendices, NDA fragments. A pattern emerged in the mess, her signature on side letters that never went through legal, expedited fees tied to companies that happened to sponsor her conferences, exclusive access guarantees written in language vague enough to be deniable and sharp enough to cut competitors out. And then there was Borealis Components. The same vendor she'd mocked me about taking credit for managing. 2 years back, Borealis had been on the brink of walking. They were being courted by a rival. I'd pulled them back with better terms and a long-term volume commitment. In return, we got stability and priority supply in tight markets. Lena had hated that I handled it directly. Now I saw why. 6 months after my deal, she quietly added an addendum, marketing collaboration fees, routed through a consultancy called Corvus Insight Partners. Owen's logs tied the consultancy to an account controlled by Lena's longtime friend, Elliot Vance. A friend who just happened to pay the down payment on her penthouse. Cute. I assembled the chain, contract screenshots, shell company ownership docs, payment flows, timelines. This wasn't just unethical. It was a knife to the company's throat in any shareholder dispute. I opened a new email window and put one name in the line. Nora Grant. Nora picked up on the second ring, sounding like she'd already downed 2 coffees and a resentment smoothie. Ethan. Either you're calling to say you've fled the country, or you're about to make my week. Please say it's the second one. You still hate Lena? I asked. With the fire of 1,000 suns, she said cheerfully. Why? I'm about to loosen her grip on the company, I said. But I need something from you. Name it. Internal chatter, I said. Who's Lena been cozying up to since Friday? What's she saying about Victor's leave? Any rumors about her taking a bigger role? Nora snorted. You mean the way she's been floating the phrase interim COO every time she breathes? Yeah. She's already rewriting history. Suddenly she always had concerns about Victor's structures. Suddenly she warned Gregory. Suddenly she's the unsung hero who kept the ship afloat while the incompetent men flailed. Good, I said. Good? She echoed. Because when she falls, the drop will be longer. Step 2, Borealis. I called their CEO, Adrian Coletti, from a block number. He almost didn't answer. When he heard my voice, he swore. Jesus, Ethan. Thought you were radioactive. Just glowing, I said. Tell me something. Have you been happy with the marketing collaboration side of our deal? Silence. How do you know about that? He asked. I know everything, I said. Including that you've been paying for visibility you never got. He let out a bitter laugh. You mean the half-baked webinars and useless thought leadership nonsense? Waste of money. We only swallowed it because Lena implied pulling out would affect our main contract. So she pressured you, I said. On company letterhead? Yes, he said. You know she did. She tied your compliance to her personal gravy train, I replied. Would you be willing to say that, in writing, to the board? Off the record, at first. That depends, he said. What's in it for me? You've wanted to renegotiate better terms, I said. Less collaboration, more actual supply security. You help expose her, and the next person in charge of that company will honor a clean, fair contract. You're assuming someone sane ends up in charge, he said. I'm assuming I will, I said. He was quiet for a beat. Then he laughed again, softer. I almost believe you, he said. Fine. Draft something. I'll have legal. Unofficially review it. By noon, I had 3 loaded weapons. Evidence of Lena's self-dealing through Corvus Insight Partners, a draft letter from Adrian outlining her pressure tactics, Owen's logs tying her to forged emails used in my termination. It was time to put them in front of the one person who still wanted to believe the house could be saved. I called Gregory. He answered on the first ring this time. What now? He asked, voice ragged. I'm sending you something on a secure link, I said. Do not forward it. Do not print it. Do not share it with Margaret before you finish it. Ethan. Do you want to know who's been bleeding your company from the inside? I snapped. Or do you want to keep playing pretend? Silence. Send it, he said. I did. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. Then he called back. What is this? He demanded. Some kind of revenge fantasy? It's documentation, I said. Of your niece's extracurricular activities. He exhaled shakily. Lena wouldn't. She would, I said. She did. She's been selling access to Hale Corbett's purchasing power through side deals and kickbacks. You fire employees for thinking about doing what she's been doing for years. Adrian will never admit to this, he said weakly. Already has, I replied. You have the draft. He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Less denial. More steel. The old CEO hiding under the grieving father. What do you want me to do? He asked. You're going to call an internal ethics session, I said. You'll pull Lena in. You'll confront her with the Borealis letter first, the vendor payment second, and Owen's logs last. You want a spectacle? I want a record, I said. You put her on the defensive. You insist this is about protecting the company's integrity after Victor's disgrace. She'll panic. And when she does, she'll start naming people. I'm curious who else she'll drag down with her. She's family, he muttered. So was I said. You didn't hesitate on Friday. His breath caught. Schedule it, I said. And Gregory, make sure Amelia is in the room. What? No. She needs to see what they did, I said. All of it. With her own eyes. Or she'll keep wondering if I'm the liar in this story. He didn't argue. He just hung up. Hannah's text came 2 hours later. Emergency ethics review. Lena called in. Gregory, Margaret, Amelia present. No one smiling. Then. They confronted her with Borealis letter. She's furious. Blaming Adrian. Calling it a smear. Margaret backing her. Gregory. Not. Another ping, they just showed her the payment trail to Corvus Insight. She went pale. Now she's saying everyone does this and Victor knew. Amelia is just staring at her. I could almost hear it. The careful air unraveling, piece by piece. Finally. Owen's logs. The forged emails. Your name. She blamed Victor. Then said Marcel exaggerated. Then said she was fixing a problem. Amelia just asked her, you did this to him? Lena didn't answer. My phone buzzed again. Amelia. I answered. Her voice was hollow. You knew. Yes, I said. You knew they used her to destroy you. She used herself, I said. They just handed her the knife. There was a strangled sound on the other end. A mix between a laugh and a sob. I asked her, Amelia whispered. Did you set Ethan up? And she said, it wasn't personal. It was necessary. How'd that feel? I asked. Like the floor disappeared, she said. Silence stretched between us. What's happening now? I asked. They're suspending her, she said faintly. Pending review. Dad wants to bring in outside counsel. Mom is screaming about witch hunts. Lena threatened to go public about family scandals if they push her out. I smiled, humorless. Let her. The street loves a scandal, especially when an investor like Eleanor is hungry. This is tearing us apart, she said. No, I replied. This is revealing what was always there. She inhaled shakily. Ethan. If I had believed you on Friday. You didn't, I said. That's what matters. I'm trying now. Good, I said. Because it's almost over. What is? She asked. Their control, I answered. By the end of the day, the internal memo went out. Subject: Interim Leadership Restructuring. Victor: on leave under investigation for potential breaches of fiduciary duty. Lena: suspended pending external review of contractual conflicts of interest. Marcel: cooperating with ongoing inquiries. And beneath all that corporate varnish, one line Hannah sent me privately. Board seeking stabilizing leadership options. Gregory considering accelerated succession shift. They had cut their own heirs down. The family tree was burning. All that was left was the trunk. And on Monday, I planned to own the whole forest. Monday didn't creep in, it struck. A clean, surgical cut of a morning that felt nothing like the life I'd lived 2 weeks ago. No tailored suit. No chauffeured ride. I walked to the bunker workspace with a cheap coffee in my hand and the kind of resolve that makes kingdoms tremble. Today wasn't about revenge. Today was acquisition. I powered on my laptop and opened 3 documents. 1. Marcel's confession. 2. Owen's encrypted logs. 3. Lena's Borealis Trail plus Corvus kickbacks. Individually, each could crush a career. Together, they could collapse a dynasty. But I had one more piece to prepare, the coup de grace. The equity package. The one Gregory and the board had approved before they murdered me professionally. It wasn't finalized, but the paperwork trail existed, drafts, emails, committee notes. They claimed termination for cause voided it. But cause had been framed. And now documented as framed. Which legally meant the equity was still mine. All I needed was the board to admit, publicly or internally, that the investigation had been compromised. The memo announcing Lena and Victor's suspensions already cracked that door open. I intended to kick it off its hinges. At 8:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. Hannah. Board wants to meet with you. Today. They're scared. Gregory asked for your availability. Me. Tell them 10. Conference room A. Hannah. You sure? Me. I'm done hiding in the shadows. I closed the message, leaned back, and let the weight of it settle. 2 weeks ago, I walked out of that building disgraced. Today, I'd walk in as the man holding all their throats. At 9:42, I arrived at HQ. Same revolving doors. Same lobby. But everything was different. Maya at security froze when she saw me. Mr. Cole.
I don't know if you're allowed.
It's okay, Maya, I said quietly. They asked me here. Her relief was immediate and painful. I'm glad. Really glad. I walked past the turnstiles, badgeless, but Hannah was waiting, and she swiped me through without a word. Her expression was tight, focused, anxious. You're about to walk into a nest of terrified executives, she whispered as we rode the elevator. Just tread carefully. I'm not here to tread, I said. I'm here to take what they tried to steal. Her eyes flicked up at me. She nodded. The doors opened on 23. People stared. Hard. Whispers followed me like a draft. He's back? They cleared him? Is Victor really? I didn't slow. Conference room sat at the end of the hall. Blinds half drawn. Voices low inside. Hannah opened the door. I stepped in. Silence rippled across the room. Gregory. Margaret. Elaine Foster, board chair. 3 other board members whose names I knew better than my own pulse. Even Marcel, looking like a man awaiting his own execution. And Amelia. Her eyes locked on mine instantly, fear, hope, guilt, everything swirling together. I didn't look away. Elaine cleared her throat. Mr. Cole. Thank you for coming. Didn't give me much of a choice, I said, taking a seat at the far end of the table. Let's get started. Gregory leaned forward. Ethan. We owe you an apology. Margaret stiffened, but Elaine shot her a look. Gregory continued, voice shaky. We made decisions based on evidence that has now been called into question. You mean fabricated, I said. Let's use real words. He swallowed. Yes. Fabricated. Marcel flinched visibly. Amelia closed her eyes. I placed my folder on the table. I assume you've all reviewed the materials I sent. Elaine nodded tightly. The evidence against you appears to have been manipulated. Logs altered. Files forged. Payments rerouted. All tied back to individuals now under review. Victor, I said, ticking a finger. Lena. And dear Marcel. Marcel stared at his hands. Elaine continued. Your role in the alleged misconduct has been effectively disproven. Good, I said. Now let's talk about the damage you did. Margaret snapped, watch your tone. No, I said evenly. You don't get to silence me today. Elaine raised a hand. Margaret. Let him speak. I opened the folder and slid a stack of documents forward. You approved an equity package for me. You positioned me as the next operational successor. Then you dragged my name through the mud, fired me in front of staff, and nearly destroyed my credibility in the industry. Gregory's jaw clenched. We were deceived. And now, I said, you need to reverse course. Elaine narrowed her eyes. What exactly are you asking? I smiled without warmth. Ownership. The room went perfectly still. Margaret sputtered. You can't be serious. I am, I replied. Legally, the equity package remains valid. I was terminated for cause under fraudulent circumstances. That nullifies the termination clause. And with Victor suspended and Lena disgraced, you need a stabilizing force more than ever. Elaine steepled her fingers. What are your terms? Straightforward, I said. You reinstate the equity package immediately. Convert it to voting shares. Appoint me interim COO while Victor remains under investigation. Publicly clear my name. Issue an internal announcement detailing the compromised review. Gregory exhaled. That's a lot. It's the truth, I said. And it stabilizes your governance. Investors are nervous. Eleanor Knox is circling. Give me the authority to steady this company before she moves from whispers to takeover. Elaine eyed me sharply. You're using her. No, I said. I'm outmaneuvering her. She wants the company cheap. I want the company intact. Marcel finally spoke, voice cracking. Ethan. This will destroy the family. I turned slowly. The family destroyed me first. His face crumpled. Amelia whispered, Ethan. Please. I didn't look at her. Elaine leaned back. Let's be clear, if we agree, this effectively hands you control. Not control, I corrected. Responsibility. Gregory stared at me for a long, silent stretch. And if we refuse? I smiled. Then slid the second folder forward, Owen's trove. Plus Marcel's confession. Plus Lena's kickback files. And a drafted letter to regulators. Elaine paled. You'd burn us down. You burned me first, I said softly. I learned the technique from you. Silence. Then. We vote, Elaine said. One by one, hands rose. Gregory. Yes. Elaine. Yes. Board member Singh. Yes. Board member Alvarado. Yes. Margaret. She hesitated. Trembled. Then, no. 4-1. Motion carried. Elaine turned to me. Effective immediately, Ethan Cole, you are reinstated with full equity, converted to voting shares. And appointed interim COO pending final review. Gregory sighed. Welcome back, son. I met his eyes. Not your son. Then I stood. Amelia took a half step toward me. Ethan. Not now, I said gently. There's still one chapter left. Because reintegration wasn't revenge. Ownership wasn't closure. That required the final scene. The begging. The twist. The end. And tomorrow, every villain would face me together. They scheduled the all hands for 4 p.m. Same time they'd executed me 2 Fridays ago. Full circle. By noon, the building hummed with rumors. Staff had seen me walk through the executive doors. The internal memo had gone out, my reinstatement, my title. Interim COO. Voting equity. Investigation into prior irregularities. No mention of the word innocent. Didn't matter. By 3:45, the auditorium was packed. Floor staff, admin, managers, even plant leads video streamed in from Owensville and the satellite offices. The Hale Corbett logo glowed on the massive screen behind the stage. I stood in the wings, watching as Gregory, Margaret, and the board filed in. Then security escorted the 3 of them to the front row. Victor. Lena. Marcel. None of them were cuffed, but they might as well have been. Victor looked thinner already, jaw clenched, eyes blazing with a rage he no longer had the power to use. Lena's hair was perfect, but her lipstick was smudged, hands white-knuckled around a folder she wasn't allowed to open. Marcel looked like he hadn't slept in days. Amelia sat a few seats away, between Margaret and an empty chair that used to be mine at every family event. Her eyes kept flickering up to the stage, then down again, as if afraid to watch and too guilty not to. Elaine stepped to the podium first. "Thank you all for coming," she said, voice steady but dull. "Today we address leadership transitions and clarify recent events." Her preamble washed over me. Standard corporate damage control, independent reviews, governance, integrity, learning from mistakes. Then she said my name. "And we recognize that former accusations against Ethan Cole were based on manipulated data and compromised internal processes. Ethan has been fully reinstated and appointed interim COO." Murmurs. Heads turning. A few people clapped, hesitantly at first, then harder. I saw faces I recognized: Silas, Priya, Nora, Tom, clapping like this was justice and not just phase 2. Elaine stepped aside. "Ethan?" she said quietly. "They're yours." I walked onto the stage. The applause rose. Louder this time. Not a standing ovation, but enough. Enough for everyone in the front row to feel it pounding in their ribs. I took the podium, looked out at the crowd, and then down at them. Gregory. Margaret. Victor. Lena. Marcel. Amelia. The family who'd fired me. The villains who'd framed me. The woman who hadn't believed me. 2 weeks ago, I walked out of this building as a warning. The room went still. You were told I'd betrayed this company. Falsified data. Manipulated vendors. Abused my position. You were told I was the problem. I let the silence stretch, scanning faces, letting it sink in. "That was a lie," I said. "A very expensive, very calculated lie." On the screen behind me, the first slide appeared, sanitized summaries of the investigation. No names yet. Just structure. Fraud. Shell entities. Conflicts of interest. Manipulated logs. "This company was betrayed," I continued. "Not by the man you watched get escorted out. By people who thought their bloodline put them above accountability." The next slide, anonymized diagrams of payment flows. Shells. Kickbacks. Internal emails with sender names hidden but dates visible. "You don't need every detail," I said. "You just need to know this: I didn't fall. I was pushed. So certain people could steal more, control more, and erase the one person standing in their way." I turned from the screen and stepped away from the podium. Time to stop talking to the crowd and start talking to the guilty. "You all deserve to see what happens next," I said, voice carrying. "Because rot doesn't just sit at the top. It trickles down if you let it." I nodded to Elaine. She nodded back. Security stepped in. They walked down the aisle and stopped in front of Victor. He shot to his feet. "You're not doing this," he snarled, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "Yes," I said calmly. "We are." "You think you've won?" His laugh was harsh. "You needed outside vultures just to get back in. You're a puppet with a prettier string." I smiled slightly. "Interesting you mention that. We'll get to it." I gestured to the security team. "Bring him up." They hesitated, looked to Gregory. He gave a small nod. Victor was escorted to the side of the stage, not quite in the spotlight, but visible enough. The tension doubled. "This is humiliating," Margaret hissed. "That's the point," I said. "They humiliated me in private and then in whispers. We're doing this the honest way." I motioned again. "Lena," I said. "Join us." She stood slowly, spine stiff, eyes blazing with hatred. "You self-righteous bastard," she said. "You'd burn the family to feel tall." "Funny," I said. "You lit the first match." She was added beside Victor. Marcel tried to remain seated. "Your turn," I said. His legs barely held him as he stood and stumbled forward. When he reached the stage stairs, he looked up at me, eyes red. "Please," he whispered. "Don't do this in front of everyone. I've cooperated. You forged the knife they used on me," I said quietly. "You do this here." Security guided him up. 3 of them now. All facing the auditorium. All facing me. Somewhere in the front row, someone hit record on their phone, pretending not to. "Good. You're all here for transparency," I said to the room. "So here it is." I turned to the 3. "Tell them," I said. "Tell them what you did." Victor stared straight ahead, jaw locked. "Or I'll tell them for you," I added. "With details you'd prefer regulators to hear first." Marcel broke first. His voice shook. I altered financial logs, he said. At Victor's direction. And Lena's. I made it look like Ethan adjusted numbers to benefit himself. Murmurs rippled through the room. Lena's glare could have cut steel. You spineless. You fed him the fake emails, I said. Didn't you, Lena? She laughed, short and bitter. You all really want a confession? Fine. Yes. I helped. I took threads and spun them into a noose. You don't get power handed to you in this family, you take it. And Victor, I said, turning. Nothing to add? He clenched and unclenched his fists. Say it, I told him. Or I'll read your shell company filings line by line. For the first time in years, I saw something like fear in his eyes. I pushed the board, he ground out. I pressured Marcel. I argued that you were a risk. That the evidence justified taking you out before you made yourself untouchable. I nodded. And you also siphoned money out of operations for years. I earned it, he snapped. I held this company together while Gregory played patriarch. You think you were the only one doing real work? The crowd was dead silent now. I stepped closer. This company, I said, low and cold, didn't fall apart because you were overworked. It rotted because you thought it belonged to you. I turned back to the audience. So here's what's happening next, I said. Effective today, these three are stripped of their roles and authority. Their actions have been documented and turned over to external counsel and, where appropriate, regulators. A wave of shock. A few gasps. Someone clapped once before stopping. And no, I added, this isn't mercy. I faced the three again. Now, I said. You're going to do something you never expected to. I pointed at the front row, at Gregory and Margaret, and at Amelia. You're going to beg, I said. Not for forgiveness. You're not getting that. You're going to beg for the smallest piece of your legacy not to be erased. Victor's nostrils flared. I'll never. You'll lose everything, I said, just loud enough for the room to hear. Every share. Every remaining defense. The trust structures. The quiet deals you think I don't know about. I can feed Eleanor enough ammunition to tear this place down to studs and rebuild it without a single Hale or Corbett involved. Margaret went white. What do you want? She whispered. I let the question hang. Then I gave them the twist. The family trusts, I said. Transfer majority voting control to me. Today. In writing. You keep your money. Your houses. Your art. I keep the company. Completely. Gregory stared at me. You take it all. You tried to take my life, I said. This is proportionate. And if we refuse? Victor spat. I looked at him. I feed everything I have to Eleanor, I said. She launches a full-scale hostile takeover. You lose control anyway, but this time with public indictments attached. Your names become cautionary tales in lectures about corporate greed. Silence. Then, slowly, Margaret turned to Gregory. We sign, she said hoarsely. We have to. Victor rounded on her. You can't. We can, she bit out. You did this. You and Lena and your arrogant little schemes. Lena laughed weakly. You were happy enough to ride the wave until it crashed. Marcel said nothing. He just stared at the floor. Gregory looked up at me. You'll keep the company together? He asked. You won't. Break it apart and sell it in pieces? I'll do what's best for the company, I said. Not what's best for your pride. He closed his eyes for a brief, painful second. Then he nodded. Have the documents drawn up, he said quietly. They already are, I replied. A legal team waiting in the back walked forward with folders. It took 15 minutes. 15 minutes for a dynasty to end. 15 minutes to sign away decades of inherited control and hand it to the man they tried to erase. When the last signature hit the page, I packed the documents, handed them back to legal, and turned once more to the crowd. By the end of today, I said, governance records will reflect a new reality. I'll be assuming full operational and voting control. Not as a favor. As a responsibility. I let that sink in. For some of you, I continued, this will mean more accountability. For others, more opportunity. For the people who show up, do the work, and don't treat this company like a personal ATM, this is your chance to finally breathe. I stepped back to the three on stage. As for you, I said softly, we're not done. I nodded to security. Take them to the small conference room, I said. I'll be there shortly. They were let out. As the doors closed behind them, I caught Amelia's eyes. She stood. Hands shaking. Face crumpling. "Ethan," she said, voice breaking. "Please. Can we talk? Just us?" The auditorium watched us like a live broadcast. "What would we talk about?" I asked. "I was wrong," she said, tears spilling. "I should have believed you. I should have fought for you. I see that now. Just. Please. Don't shut me out. Don't throw me away with them." The old version of me would have folded right there. That man was dead. "I'm not throwing you away," I said. "I'm just not taking you with me." Her breath hitched. "We're married." "For now," I said. "You chose them when it counted. I needed you once. You weren't there. I won't need you again." She stepped toward the stage. "Ethan, I love you. I never stopped. I'll fix it, I'll stand beside you, I'll." "You already made your decision," I said. "This is mine." She swayed like I'd hit her. "Is there really nothing left?" she whispered. I held her gaze. "There's a company to rebuild," I said. "There's justice to finish. There's nothing left for you and me." Her shoulders folded. She sank back into her seat, silent. I turned away. No forgiveness. No soft landing. Just consequences. In the small conference room, the three of them waited. Victor glared. Lena shook. Marcel looked like an empty suit filled with regret. I closed the door behind me. "This is the last time the four of us will be in a room together," I said. "So let's be clear." Victor opened his mouth. I raised a hand. "No speeches," I said. "Just this." I leaned on the table, meeting each of their eyes. "You took everything from me," I said quietly. "My career. My reputation. My marriage. You turned my life into a spectacle and expected me to die quietly." I straightened. "I took everything back," I continued. "And then I took everything you thought you could never lose." Victor's voice finally cracked. "What do you want from us now?" "Nothing," I said. "You're over. Cooperate with the investigations, or don't. Either way, you'll live the rest of your lives knowing you lost your kingdom to the man you tried to bury." Lena whispered, "Ethan. I didn't mean." "You meant all of it," I said. "You just didn't think I'd survive it." Marcel's lips trembled. "Is there any chance you'll someday forgive you?" I finished. "No." They all flinched. I walked to the door, hand on the handle, and looked back one last time. "You didn't just fire me on Friday," I said. "You forged the weapon that made me dangerous." I opened the door. "And by Monday," I added, voice low and final, "I owned everything you were stupid enough to think was yours." I left them there, three broken architects of their own ruin, alone with the echo of what they'd lost. The door shut behind me with a soft, decisive click. Like a coffin lid.